I don't feel like I'm in a position to talk about starting classes, but I can talk about one thing. And that's Chrono classes, baby. My stupid whale brain can discuss one topic and one topic over. Chrono classes. Okay? Now, I'm not going to talk about Chrono Shadow Slayer because I feel like that's you can't get that from the Hero Mart like in game yet, so we're going to ignore that class. So I'm going to go over which Chrono classes I recommend. And I'm sure there's going to be controversy and people will recommend other ones, but I've got 4 in mind that you should get above all others, and I feel like a lot of people would agree, okay? And I'm going to start with my favorite one, which is honestly Timekeeper, or I believe the other name is Time Killer. And if you don't know what this class is, if you don't have Void High Lord, or you're struggling to solo certain bosses that one hit, this is the fucking class to go for, okay? If you're, like, this class is honestly the, okay, I can't seem to solo this boss, let me try Timekeeper. Now, I will say that it works best with Vim or Lacerate, which, if you don't know what they do, they're basically just increasing your dodge chance, making it harder for you to hit. So basically, I feel like a good example is my Shadowfall dailies. There's a lot of bosses in this daily that one tap you like that. Good example. There you go. I got one tapped. There's a lot of bosses that will one tap you, and you'll struggle to solo it with classes like Void High Lord. And apparently, you'll also struggle with Timekeeper because apparently my Forge enchantments aren't working. Now, you're not gonna use Timekeeper to. We'll try it again. You're not gonna use Timekeeper in ultras, okay? Like you won't use it at all in ultra fights. However, for soloing a lot of the content in game, this class is good. By far. It is, in my opinion, worth the 6k. There's so many bosses that I'll solo with this class. And I'm also gonna say, it has a pretty big nuke. If you're also being buffed by like a Legion Revenant and a Lord of Order, the nuke can be even bigger. I've hit upwards of, like, I think 2 mil in one fight. Obviously, that is with the 51% yada yada, or 75% boost, 31% armor, yada 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 yada. But another thing for this class is it's very, very easy to use. It's very, very simple to use, okay? Now, the route that I go is I use my 3, and then I do 2, 2, 5, 2, 2, 4. 4 is your nuke, 2 stacks rifts. So, you know, I don't feel like you can go wrong with this class. This is the one I recommend the most, just because it is my favorite. However, there are other Chrono classes for sure that you should go for. Now, this one is for soloing bosses, but what if we want to farm, right? Like, let's say we want to farm some mobs. And this is where I would say Necrotic Chronomancer is one of the best farming classes in the game, and I'm willing to fight every single person in chat right now to say that this is one of the best farming classes in the game. If you have Timekeeper and Necrotic Chronomancer, I genuinely believe that you can solo everything in the game apart from ultras. Like, you will not struggle with any content in the game bar a few bosses if you were to use Necrotic Chronomancer and Timekeeper. I feel like these are generally the 2 best Chronomancers that you can get. Now, again, that being said, they're 6k ACs each, so this is mainly aimed at whales. Insert, you know, insert whale noises here. But enhancements aside, both of these classes are still very good. You can... Timekeeper works with just full luck. Yes, you won't have full dodge, but you can still drop nukes on bosses, which will allow you to solo them. And people might disagree with this, but even Necrotic Chronomancer, you can fight bosses with Necrotic Chronomancer. Especially if you're doing story. Like, if you're a returning player and you never finish the Chaos stories, you can solo bosses with Necrotic Chronomancer. Now, granted, it may not be that quick, but it just has such a high sustain that it's definitely worth getting. It hits 3 targets at a time, so very good for farming. I can't say enough good about this, right? I am promoting the pay-to-win classes. I mean, I'm not necessarily promoting the pay-to-win classes. It's just, if you're going to spend money, you may as well spend it right, you know? Get what I mean? So, now, this is probably the most beneficial Chronomancer to get. Quantum Chronomancer. And again, I'm sure other people would disagree, but this is a Chronomancer that you can use for practically anything, including Ultras. Now, I do recommend that you use this class with a group, but I've used this in Ultra fights. I think a lot of people say they use it in Ultra fights. So, again, it's a 6k class, sure. But, let's be honest. It's a Chrono class that can be used in endgame, so it's definitely worth getting. How you doing, NASCAR Lee? I don't really want to speak too much on this class, because it's quite straightforward. You buff, you do damage. There you go. He wants us to run Chronos and all Ultras because we're too slow for him. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm trying to get out of this chat is I just want to make sure people make the right decisions when they do get their Chrono classes. That's all. If someone's thinking of getting a Chrono class but doesn't know which one to get, like, you've got options, okay? And I'm going to be honest, not all of these classes are good. Now, Shadow Weaver of Time, I believe, is good, and I believe its Timeless is also very good. However, these two classes are a lot more complicated to use in comparison to Timekeeper, you know, Quantum. Like, the ones that I'm recommending are very easy to use, and they're also very good. Now, if you wanted to go full support, the last one I'll recommend is Obsidian Paladin Chronomancer. I did recently make a video on this class and how to use it in Champion Drakath. And I'll be honest, I saw a lot of people complaining that it's inconsistent. Yes, it's basically a mana whore. It uses a lot of mana. However, if you pair this class with a Stone Crusher, it does massive heals. It does good damage over time. However, when you do use this class, make sure you have animations off. Because if you use one skill, and your game will run in 2 FPS. So if you do get Paladin, remember to turn your animations off. Because, yeah. It's going to be horrible. Now, things I do want to mention is Chrono Shadow Slayer is a very, very good class. The only reason I'm not going to include it in, like, the list of what you should get is because you cannot get it. You currently can't get it from the time lock shops here. Which I believe it won't come out till next year. Someone can tell me I'm wrong on that, but I believe it won't come out till next year in this shop. So that's why I've decided not to include that as a class. The other classes that are good is Shadow Weaver and Timeless. I have no idea about these other ones, though. From what I've seen, they're not so good. I believe Chrono Prime got a buff, but I've looked at it. Doesn't look very good, so take everything with a grain of salt, but that's what I recommend. Fix, shut the fuck up. Fight me, 1v1 me, Blood Rot Brawl in 2 minutes. But yeah, that's my recommendations for Chrono classes. They're quite expensive, so hopefully everyone makes the right decisions, I guess.